Okay. Hello. I think we're live. So, I'm Richard Medhurst. Joining me is the founder of Syrian analysis, Kevork Almassian. Thank you so much for coming on, Kevork. It's nice to have you finally. كيفك حبيبي?
هاي ريتشارد، كيفك حبيبي؟ أنا تمام، بس في loop بالصوت إذا أنت I'm doing very well, but there is a loop in the voice if you're hearing.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Let me double check.
I'm doing very well, but there is a loop in the voice if you're hearing.
Yeah. Hold on a second. We're having tech difficulties as usual.
I will also bring my headphones.
Is that better?
Okay? Just give me 1 minute. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's perfect. Now I can hear you well. There is no loop. I will also bring my headphones. Just give me 1 minute. No, there is a loop. I will bring my headphones.
Okay. All right, I switched to the full screen where it's just me, and yeah, there you go. So I need to make like one of those screens where it says "We'll be right back." We're having technical difficulties or something, you know, with like the 60s font. Okay, I think we're good now. We're having technical difficulties or something, you know, with like the 60s font. All right, can you hear me, Kevork?
Yeah, I do.
All right, wonderful. Here we are. So we have a lot to talk about, man. We have a lot to talk about, Habibi. You know, like 24th of April, that was the Remembrance Day for the Armenian Genocide. And, you know, this is a personal issue to me. It's a personal issue to you, to all of us. You know, we all lost ancestors in the Armenian Genocide. You know, the only reason that I'm half Syrian to begin with is because of the genocide, because you had so many Armenians that were driven from their homes, and they went to places like Iran, to Syria, to Lebanon. You know, so on my mother's side, I think she, you know, 3 of her grandparents were orphaned, right? So my nene, you know, so my grandmother's mother, they killed her parents, and she came, I think, to Lebanon as an orphan, and then she moved to Syria, and so on. And you know, I'm actually the only one who doesn't speak Armenian. So my mother speaks Armenian and Arabic and English. She taught me Arabic and English, but not Armenian, and that makes Armenian girls very angry. But you know, so anyway, and anyway, Kevork, like, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but also like your family history, or you know, just share, like. Yeah, just share your side.
Hi, Richard. First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's a really pleasure to be with you. I've been watching your channel for a while. Actually, my family is one of the survivors of the Armenian Genocide. Therefore, I'm a 4th generation of a descendant of a survivor of the Armenian Genocide. My both parents are Armenian, and their grandparents were from Kilis, which nowadays is in southern Turkey. So when the Ottoman and then the Young Turk decided to ethnically cleanse the Armenians at the beginning of the, or during beginning and at the beginning of the World War I, my parents escaped to Aleppo, and they found refuge among the Arabic families, let's say, and the Muslims there, which provided the necessary shelter for my family. Some of the family members continued to Lebanon, others to France, and even we have a big family, let's say, even in the United States, because it was easy back then to move around. But maybe my parents stayed in Aleppo. I think they loved the food and the cuisine there, so they preferred to stay in Aleppo, and I was born and raised there and studied in Syria, international relations and diplomacy. and later also did master in political science. So this was a short, let's say, summary of the history of my family. However, I was digging in because my bachelor degree was, or the graduation project was about the Armenians of Syria. So I wanted to find the tree of my family, let's say, and I found someone with the name of Kevork Almassian, and he was a father in Kharpert, which is in historic Armenia, and he was burned, according to the documents that I have read, he was burned alive with his followers in the church, all dead, nothing left. And all these towns and cities, so the ethnic cleansing was not only like a physical ethnic cleansing against the Armenians, because after the genocide, even Ataturk, when he came, he continued the ethnic cleansing, but the cultural genocide, which was like converting the towns and the cities in eastern, nowadays Eastern Turkey, which is historic Armenia, and changing the names of the towns and forcing the people to live and resettling other, let's say, communities or other ethnicities there. So it didn't stop only during the Ottoman Empire, but also continued under different Turkish governments, because the people nowadays say, so why should we blame the nowadays Turkey? Because for many reasons. One, Turkey is they inherited the Ottoman Empire, and they claimed that they are they want to inherit the Ottoman Empire. So you inherit the agreements, the treaties, and also responsibilities from the Ottoman Empire. This is one. And two, the genocide never stopped. Like if you go nowadays to Eastern Turkey, you will not find one single town with the name or with the name, with an Armenian name. Why is that? Because the consecutive governments in Turkey, they forcefully changed like the Israelis are doing in the Palestinian towns and villages. They changed the names into, let's say, Jewish names. So it's a really like, it seems some people learn from each other how to commit ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, and you know, it's really harrowing, the story you just told about your ancestor, because you know, growing up, I mean, we you know, our parents all told us the stories of the genocide, and one that I remember my mother telling me is how they killed everyone inside the church. Right. And I again, what I'd love to do is I'd love to also have my mom on the show to kind of record, to document our family history, because I don't even know it that well. And I need to do this, not just for me personally, but also for the historical record. Right. We should all be doing this, because as you said, they're trying to erase our history and erase us literally. And, you know, it's horrible, right, what they did. And as you said, you know, they've been trying to take a lot of the territory. And I mean, Armenia now compared to how Armenia was before, it's minuscule. I mean, I just pulled up, like, just on Google, just if I can show you, just a tiny example of, you know, if you type historical Armenia, right, and what comes up. I mean, look at how much it's shrunk. I mean, that's even stretching into Syria, you know, like, I mean, nowadays it's just this tiny speck over there, right? And of course, you're gonna have different definitions of what Armenia is, the Kingdom of Armenia, you know. And again, a fun fact for people who don't know, Armenia is the first country that adopted Christianity as its religion. So you know, just going back to what you said, Kevork, like they've really erased everything and perpetuated not just you know, killing Armenians, but also erasing their identity. And they deny to this day. I don't know if everyone knows that, but Turkey still denies this genocide to this day. They do not admit that it happened, even though they killed 1.5 million Armenians. They killed 1.5 million Armenians. And you know, I wanted to ask you, Kevork, Biden recognized the Armenian genocide. He's the first American president to do that, you know, after like over 100 years, because this is now 2021. So we're talking, what's my calculation? 106, is that correct?
106.
So yeah, so you know, what are your thoughts on that, on the fact that he recognized the genocide? I'll pull it up also. Go ahead.
just before answering your question, I want to mention a few things, Richard. First, the amount of barbarism by the Ottoman Empire is unimaginable. So we heard and we know by documents and pictures that the Ottoman soldiers they were organizing competition among each other, who will collect more ears and who will collect more nipples of women. And this was so our grandparents used to tell us these stories, and we grew up with this trauma. So I was talking to my psychologist the other day. She told me like I suffer from like cross-generational post-traumatic disorder, and that's true because of these experiences. But what really what I didn't expect in 21st century is to see similar images and similar footage at this time in Syria. But this time there were mobiles and technologies to document all these crimes. And I'm asking myself this question: if the Ottomans in 160 years ago committed this ethnic cleansing, like there were no cameras and all this stuff, nowadays the new Ottomans committed also horrendous crimes in front of the cameras. So I'm asking myself, if 106 years ago, when there were no like big technology, what kind of crimes these people committed when there were no like mobiles? Everyone is trying to document this. You know, it's really horrendous. You don't want to think about it. Secondly, the recognition of the Armenian genocide is, in my opinion, it shouldn't be in the hands of the politicians. It is a historical matter, of course, and there is like you cannot discuss even the documents that the Armenians have are enormous, and these documents are not Armenian documents, but rather the intel or the embassy and the consulate documents that the Western, Russian, and other governments were sending to their governments in their capitals. That the amount of criminality or the crimes by the Ottomans were unimaginable. However, because we are living nowadays in a very politicized world, and Armenians have to organize lobbies, and they have strong lobbies in France, strong lobby in America, United States, and in Russia. So, forcing these governments to acknowledge the Armenian genocide is one step before reparations and before asking for compensation and your territories. I'm not living in a wishful thinking world, so I don't think that these territories will be returned to the Armenians. However, if this political pressure grows on Turkey, and especially on Erdogan, and if Turkey recognizes this genocide, then at least Turkey should be committed to pay financial compensation to the Armenian government and help the Armenian side. But the funny thing here is, Richard, Turkey denies that the genocide happened, and all those who support Turkey and all these slaves and worshippers of Erdogan, they are, by the way, tens of millions around the world. They are not few. So they say the genocide never happened. And then if you check their comments and check what they post on Twitter, for example, under my tweets, they post the pictures of the sultans and the perpetrators of the Armenian genocide. It's like, it never happened, but we will do it again. So guys, you need to
this is what I hear from these genocide deniers. They have two positions. Either the genocide didn't happen, but if it did, Armenians deserved it. Like, they're so fucking twisted in their heads. And this is insane. And I want to point something out. The guy, there is a historian, a Polish Jew. His name is Raphael Lemkin. He coined the term genocide. And the thing, I want to just pull this up on the screen. The thing that inspired him to study this field and to coin that term was the Armenian genocide. It's the quintessential example. So for people to deny that is astonishing. And I just want to read a small excerpt here from Wikipedia. So, over 1.5 million Armenians died in the Armenian genocide, which took place between the years of 1914 and 1923. Lemkin's interest in prosecuting the perpetrators was sparked when he first learned about the genocide during his studies at the University of Lvov, I hope I'm saying that correctly, from which he graduated in 26. In his autobiography, Lemkin wrote that he had been influenced by the March 15th, 1921 assassination of Talat Pasha. Then, so I'm just reading this excerpt here. It says, then he writes, then one day I read in the newspapers that all Turkish war criminals were to be released. The Turkish criminals released from Malta dispersed all over the world. The most frightful among them was Talat Pasha, the Minister of the Interior of Turkey, who was identified with the destruction of the Armenian people. One day he was stopped in the street by a young Armenian with the name Tehlirian. After identifying Pasha, Tehlirian shot him, saying, "This is for my mother." And just one last thing I'd add before giving it back to you. You know, you mentioned having family all over the world, and it's true. You know, even again, I have to ask my mother, but we got people who went to America, people who are still in Lebanon. Like they dispersed us, you know, and the fact that, for example, we are so disconnected from Armenia. I've never been there. I think you might have visited. My cousin Roni, who's been on the show, he visited. But you know, the fact that we have lost this connection to our original homeland, I mean, it's kind of heartbreaking. It shows how the effects of genocide last multiple generations. You know.
Actually, Richard Tehlirian, who assassinated Talat Pasha, he assassinated him here in Berlin. And I visited this spot where he was assassinated, and it's not far away from the place that I live. And his grandson still lives in Berlin, Tehlirian's grandson. So, when he assassinated Talat Pasha, of course, the police captured him here, and we know that Germany was allied with Turkey. But however, the court here decided that he is innocent, and they freed him on the basis that he was suffering from mental illness. So they found an excuse for it, so he was freed and never been in jail, which was one of the very little positive things about this. I visited Armenia the first time. This was in 2005, and it's true that Turkey really disconnected us from our fatherland. However, the moment you step in the airport, your entire body is like you feel your heart is beating very fast, and you know that your roots are there. And this is not a joke, because Armenians are deeply attached to their homeland, and they are very patriotic people, and they want to defend their country. And I'm happy because Armenians learned from history a bit, but they need to learn more, because of course, there were many Armenian strong generals in the Roman Empire and in other empires, like Armenians participated, but the Armenians weren't really a militaristic people, and they have paid a huge price for this. Armenians built more churches over the top hills of the mountains, 3,000 meter over the sea, instead of building castles and trying to defend themselves. But after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Armenians fought a very big war against the Azerbaijani occupation of Karabakh, and this was the first, let's say, attempt by the Armenians to capture a territory that belongs to them. Yeah. And but I'm also, unfortunately, I have to say, the globalization of the neoliberal values and how easy it is nowadays to indoctrinate the people. Unfortunately, I have to say, a segment, a small or a bigger segment, I cannot really quantify, but some Armenians have become neoliberals. And
that's always bad. That is always bad.
Because look, people are like, any human being is like an empty book, and if you inject this guy anything, he will be indoctrinated, especially when from the childhood days. So I don't really blame the people who believe in neoliberalism, but the process. Like for 2 decades, all these Soros organizations, NGOs are the NED, the Soros organizations, the USAID, all these worms are working in Armenia, and they have indoctrinated a lot of people. And that is why in 2018, a so-called revolution erupted in Armenia, which was a color revolution similar to what happened in Georgia and in Ukraine. And they brought a clown like Pashinyan into power, who has nothing to do with geopolitics, and his priorities, if you see Pashinyan's rhetoric, like he tried all the time to hit the Armenian army, the Armenian national identity, and try to focus on minor issues in Armenia, and like, I don't want to say, like, for example, I am wholeheartedly with LGBT right community rights, but this doesn't come at the top of the list of priorities when your country is sandwiched between Turkey and Azerbaijan, and when you try to hit your own army and try to bullshit against Russia, which is your strategic ally in the region and the only power that is able to stop Turkey and Azerbaijan if they attack you, then of course, if a war erupts like happened a few months ago, you will lose the war. And unfortunately, they lost 70% of Nagorno-Karabakh to Azerbaijan when the Armenian prime minister, he didn't even fire one Scud missile on Azerbaijan to deter them from this attack.
So, Kevork, that's the thing where, you know, this war that happened just in autumn now between Armenia and Azerbaijan. I need you, not just for the viewer's sake, but for my sake, to break this down. And you know, because my mother was like, "How dare you not cover this?" You know, she's right. The thing is, I was in London covering the Assange trial, so my head was elsewhere at the time, and so I'm not that well informed about it. My basic understanding, and I know that you know this very eloquently, and will explain it eloquently. My basic understanding is that, like we were saying, Armenia has shrunken, right? It's become a minuscule version of its former self. And, Nagorno-Karabakh, this is a small region between Azerbaijan and Armenia, which is contested. I mean, it's part of Armenia, but the Azerbaijanis claim it's theirs. And the people living in Nagorno-Karabakh are ethnically Armenian. They are yes. Armenians. And so could you explain what happened, because I remember seeing war crimes. I posted about this, how they were executing Armenian prisoners of war. That's a violation of the Geneva Convention and the Hague Convention. And it's not just the prisoners of war. If you could just give an overview, and also, how this turned out. We know what happened with the corridor, but just you will probably do a better job. So take it away.
Richard, the Armenians were living in the region of the current Armenian Nagorno-Karabakh like at least 5 centuries from now. Okay, Azerbaijan's history is it's a product of the World War I. So even Coca-Cola is older than Azerbaijan. However, during when the World War I was finished, Stalin came and occupied Nagorno-Karabakh, okay, because the Russians weighed in the Southern Caucasus. And after after 4 years, in 1923, Stalin gave the region of or gifted the region of Nagorno-Karabakh to the newly formed Azerbaijan, which they had a very strong links with Turkey, because Russia wanted, or the Soviet Union wanted, to appease the Turks back then in order to have a better relations to them. So the Armenians stayed under Azerbaijani occupation for 3 decades until World War II. And in World War II, when the war was ended and the UN was formed, Azerbaijan registered that territory under its name. So if we want to draw parallels, it's like the Israeli-Palestinian or Arab-Israeli conflict, how the Brits gave this territory to the Israelis, the same way the Soviet Union gave this territory to the Azerbaijanis. So when you say under international law, it belongs to Azerbaijan, you have to give a context how that happened and why that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, just a small parenthesis. My parents both worked in the UN as peacekeepers, but that doesn't mean we can look at the UN and say it's perfect. I mean, if you consider, as you just mentioned, the UN's word to be, sacrosanct. I mean, according to them, Palestine is not a country. That's bullshit, right?
True.
And just as you mentioned here, according to them, this is apparently now. Well, tell them what the Armenian defeat was. What the result was just a few months ago.
So when the World War II was over, Azerbaijan registered this territory under its name. So it was Azerbaijan till the fall of the Soviet Union. So the Armenians sensed that the Soviet Union is going to collapse and there will be chaos there. So they prepared themselves well and they trained well, and there were thousands and thousands of volunteers from all around the world. Armenians came into Karabakh to fight this war. And so between 1991 and 1994, the Armenians fought and won this war, and they captured again Nagorno-Karabakh, and this stayed like the status quo stayed till 2020. Some territories you lose, some you gain, but overall like almost the same. And during this time, Armenia had a few presidents or prime ministers, and they were very militaristic people, and they knew how to play chess with Russia in regards to Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan also has very good relations with Russia. But they played very well in this chess that every time Azerbaijan tries to attack Armenia or Nagorno-Karabakh, the Armenians were able to convince Russia to weigh in and practice diplomatic pressure on Azerbaijan to stop the war. But because Azerbaijan is a very powerful country now, it has a very big gas resources. So they're buying weaponry, like you can't imagine how much weaponry they have, around $5 billion worth weaponry only from Israel. And they use the drones of Israel, they use the Turkish drones, and they export 1/3 of the Israeli energy resources coming from Azerbaijan. And of course, it comes from Azerbaijan to Turkey and from Turkey to Israel. And then Erdogan comes like, oh, I'm anti-Israel, it's a fucking big game like Erdogan is playing with the Muslim people. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they really don't think critically about it. And unfortunately, this has stayed like till 2018, and Armenia had strong leaders on a foreign policy level, but on a domestic level, they were corrupted. And they were called like Russian oligarchs. This is what the Armenians used to call them. But so in 2018, a color revolution erupted with the full support of these NGOs who trained and indoctrinated the youngsters. And they ousted the prime minister, Serge Sarkisyan, which I mentioned. He is a very good military guy, but domestically is corrupted. And they brought someone who is a journalist, and he doesn't understand the ABCD of geopolitics. And he wants to change the geopolitical position of Armenia from the Eurasian partnership into NATO. And he started to vote against Russia in international meetings. He started to, the newspapers affiliated to him are talking shit every day against Putin. And so when the war erupted, Pashinyan called Angela Merkel, called Trudeau, called all these shitty leaders around the world, and he called Putin only on the 5th day of the war. And Putin...
So he's a NATO puppet.
Yes, he is. He is, of course.
Wow.
I have no doubt about that. So on the 5th day of the war, Pashinyan called Putin, and Putin is very smart, and he's an asshole. Sorry, he recorded the conversation. He recorded the conversation while Pashinyan is calling him on a video, And he was on a Zoom call with his ministers while Pashinyan is calling for help from Putin. And Putin, he just picked up the phone and said, "Hello, Pashinyan, I'm busy. I don't have time for you today. I call you later." And he, when I saw that video, I said, "Khalas, it's we lost this war. If Putin is behaving like that with the Armenian government, that means we're going to lose this war, because Russia is very important in its geopolitical weight and how they can pressure Azerbaijan."
Let me just play the clip. I think I found it.
Я бы еще раз хотела продолжить то, о чем сказали вы вчера.
Напряженнейшая неделя. Президентский телефон не умолкал. Эти кадры показываем впервые.
Вместе с тем в отечественном лесном комплексе... Извините.
Кто именно звонил, останется за кадром, но и официально пресс-служба президента сообщалась о череде телефонных разговоров. Звонил Пашинян. Некоторые телефонные звонки, раздавшиеся прямо во время совещания, завершали Путину во время телемоста.
I mean, if people think this is coincidence, he meant to send a message to the Armenians. Russia is a growing superpower, and you are in the Southern Caucasus. If Armenia is located in Canada and you want to ally yourself with the United States, I may understand that. But if you are located in the Southern Caucasus and you're sandwiched between Turkey and Azerbaijan, and Turkey in the last 20 years is expanding, and we know what Turkey has done in Syria, Iraq, Cyprus, Greece. So Libya what lessons? Yeah, what lessons have you learned from this, you know?
But I mean, this is incredible because, you know, I knew it was bad, but I'm glad that you're giving context to really illustrate how bad it is. And, you know, I want to ask you also, what was Russia's role in, you know, bringing the conflict to an end? Because, you know, some people are saying, like, Russia intervened to kind of broker this you know, a ceasefire because it would have gotten worse. Even more territory would have been lost. Because what happened to Nagorno-Karabakh? Like, I mean, I know it's a rhetorical question, but I want you to explain it. Like, what happened basically?
Actually, the Russians intervened on the 10th of November 2020, and they told Pashinyan to agree on a ceasefire agreement. When we lost, or the Armenians lost only 10% of the territories in Nagorno-Karabakh, Pashinyan refused, and he was selling lies to the Armenians that we were going to win this war, And until the Azerbaijani forces were surrounding a very important Armenian city, historically, it's like Shushi is one of the most historical Armenian places in our entire history. So the Azerbaijanis encircled Shushi, and they were gonna break in and occupy it. And the Russians were still telling Pashinyan to agree on a ceasefire, and he didn't. And I remember on the day of surrender in Shushi, at 3 p.m. Central European time, Pashinyan was tweeting and posting on Facebook that we're going to resist and we're going to win. And at 9 p.m. at night, like a thief, he signed on an agreement of surrender. He handed over even Shushi without fighting. The Azerbaijanis were not even inside the city of Shushi. And he gave up this important city to the Azerbaijanis. That is why a lot of Armenians nowadays say Pashinyan is a traitor. And I'm one of the people. Like, even if you didn't do it on purpose, this is, if you give up your territory to your enemy without fighting, that's treason. And if you want to learn something about, if you want to learn something about patriotism and how to restore your territories, go and check how Syrians fought for 70% of their territories were occupied by ISIS, and they didn't sign on a surrender treaty to anyone. Although John Kerry, we remember very well in 2015, he was saying in a secret meeting with opposition figures who obviously recorded him saying this, that they allowed ISIS to expand in order to practice pressure on Assad. They wanted him to compromise, but the Syrian government didn't compromise over territories. Territories is sovereignty. I don't understand in the 21st century how people consider this as a privilege. No, it's 101 of political science. If security comes first, if you don't secure your country and your borders, then everything else is secondary. If you think in a neoliberal way, I'm sorry, like if you think that you can make peace with Azerbaijan and Turkey by cooking them dolma, mahashi in Arabic, as the new. I'm not joking, because this fucking neoliberal journalists, they're posting articles after articles that we can make peace with Turkey by cooking them dolma. And it's not going to happen that way. When you are strong, you have a strong army, you're able to deter an outsider invasion, then you gain the respect of your enemy, not by cooking them some dolma.
This is scandalous. Yani عيب. I want to show this video of what happened in the Armenian parliament. Can you explain what's going on here for the viewers?
He told the people, okay, I'm gonna resign and I'm gonna hold snap parliamentary elections, because there were tens of thousands of people in the streets. But what he did, he just contained the anger of the people by telling them, okay, I'm gonna do elections and I'm gonna I'm gonna resign. So the people left the streets. The people left the streets, and he told them, okay, I don't think there is a mood for elections now in Armenia, and I'm gonna continue. So the opposition were very angry, and there are 13 political parties in Armenia, and it's very obvious that Russia is now supporting the opposition, and especially the second president of Armenia, Robert Kocharyan. And even the Armenian army, they weighed in and they said, Pashinyan, you have to resign. So now, only yesterday, Pashinyan resigned from his post.
Right.
To pave the way for snap parliamentary elections. But unfortunately, he's again a candidate. He's going to participate in these elections instead of being behind bars in jail. So for the people to know, like, I'm Armenian, but I'm talking about all the mistakes of the Armenian government. And my humble advice is, if you're living in anywhere that is volatile and you may have enemies and could be conquered by these enemies, you have to prioritize your interests. And first comes security. When you have a good security and you have a stability, then you talk about other reforms, democratization, freedoms, etc., etc. But not before guaranteeing your presence. Because now, in my opinion, what Pashinyan did, it's not only surrender, he's paving the way for another ethnic cleansing of the Armenians. And this is a very serious thing. I just need 2 minutes to explain. So the road between Turkey and Armenia were blocked. It was closed. There is no diplomatic relations, and also between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And if we see on the map now, Pashinyan, he even agreed to open a highway that connects Azerbaijan and passes through Armenia to Turkey. And you know what's going to happen? In a few years, Azerbaijanis and the Turks are very strong economies. They will invade your country with their products, and they will have a very big influence over your economy in a few years. And this will destroy the Armenian economy, which is already a weak economy. So in all levels, it's a complete disastrous decisions by the current Armenian government, which is hailed by every single liberal clown leader around the world for being a democratic leader in Armenia, while giving up his own territory. Do these leaders of the West who call themselves liberals, do they give up their territories to other countries? And do they?
No, they just take. They take. And, you know, I really, I agree with what you said, where you have to deal with security and land first. And, you know, like you said, if you go and look at a map of Syria in 2015, half of it is black. At least half of it is black under ISIS. Half of Syria under ISIS. And so, you know, this idea that you just capitulate is unfathomable. And, you know, you have people that are constantly like, oh, why don't you criticize the crimes of the Syrian government as much as, you know, the Americans stealing the oil with the Kurds, or ISIS and you know, Al-Qaeda and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and Idlib. And motherfucker, first of all, they're not comparable. Number two, like you said, you were fighting a war on 12 fronts. Syria is being attacked by 12 countries and double more factions. We don't have time. We don't have that luxury to do that right now. You got people from Israel, from Turkey, from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, from the UK, from France, from Germany, from the United States, and all these jihadists coming in from all over the world trying to take over the country, and you want to engage in self-criticism, especially with NATO narratives. It's not even like, oh, here is a fact of what happened. We don't even fucking know, because half the time it's propaganda. There's a propaganda war on Syria. I don't know what the government actually did, because there's no way to verify, because there's a 24/7 bombardment of lies coming from the media. So we have to, they don't understand this idea that you have to deal with the security and the land first. And just going back to Armenia, I mean, I find this despicable what he did, because Armenia is already shrunken so much. We lost so many people in the genocide, even more people in the diaspora, and the territory itself. They just keep taking and taking and taking, and the expansionism from Turkey, it's even affected Syria, right? I mean, you have places that used to be Syria, and now they're part of Turkey, and even Idlib, they're trying to take Idlib now.
Richard, these motherfuckers in the West, they want you also to cook maybe dolma to these terrorists in Syria and make peace with them. There are over 100. There were over 100,000 jihadists in Syria from different nationalities, including Syrian jihadists. And if a Syrian national becomes a jihadist, he's no more a Syrian, because his identity is an Islamist, and he doesn't consider himself a Syrian. He says, "I'm not a Syrian. I'm an Islamist. I want an Islamic caliphate." And so he abandoned voluntarily from his macro national identity, which is a Syrian identity, and he wants to be an Islamist. So why do you even want to discuss this issue with an Islamist who wants to create a caliphate in Syria? And speaking about the so-called crimes of the Syrian government, the crime is something that you committed on purpose. So when you want to, for example, if you purposely bomb let's say a hospital, which is a hospital, not a bunker for the jihadists who are storing chlorine gas in these bunkers, then it is a crime. And not when these jihadists come and take over a hospital, even the mosques. If a mosque or a church is being taken over by a jihadist and they're firing from, I was in Aleppo in August 2014. And I was interviewing the Catholic bishop in Aleppo, and the jihadists were Richard, like 5 meters away from the door of the church, and they fire like every few minutes, Allahu Akbar, and they shoot a mortar on the city. So if they occupy this church and the government comes and bombs this church, do I feel sad about the church? No.
Yeah, no, we're now going to say, oh, the government hates Christians. I mean,
yes.
This is ridiculous.
And this is the fourth generation of an asymmetrical warfare, and the Americans trained these jihadists for it. So they purposely go and station in sensitive places like churches, like mosques, like hospitals, so that if the government tries to retaliate against them, the white helmets comes with their professional cameras and the GoPros to document it, and they don't show you the context. They just show you the rubble and what they're doing, but they don't tell you what happened before that bombing. So it's a manufacturing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because they don't show you the full context and give you the actual perspective. They just push out headlines, and we know the white helmets is a front for British intelligence. We know this. We have the documents, the official documents. So it's not even a debate at this point. And the thing is that there are criticisms to be made, but when you have a war, like I said, on 12 fronts, on 24 fronts, what is that? Like, people are like, oh, you have to be biased. You cannot be biased. You have to be objective. What do you mean objective? There are fucking Al-Qaeda people trying to chop off our heads, and then a government that you've been brainwashed to hate by the Western media. That's not the same thing. Like, not even fucking close. And that's not the time right now. Like, wait,
These guys are sitting behind their fucking laptops in front of their Macs, and they are preaching you how to feel about your country. Yeah. When my brother was kidnapped by these jihadists in 2012, And we know who are these people. Like my father went to their headquarters to negotiate with them. These guys are the Free Syrian Army, the so-called Free Syrian Army, are just the makeup for Al-Qaeda in Syria. So just we say, oh, there are moderate rebels. So we give the weapons to these so-called moderate rebels, and these moderate rebels just transfer them to Al-Qaeda or sell to Al-Qaeda. It's very simple. But someone is coming to tell you, oh, you have to be objective when your country, your family, your friends are under daily fire. Come on, fuck yourself. If you're sitting in New York City, and in the suburbs of New York City are people shelling the city with mortars, gas jars, hell cannons, chlorine gas, name it, man. 14,000 civilians died in Aleppo by these hell cannons. They used to call it Midfa' Jahannam in Arabic.
No.
So, and people from my school, my like mates from the school, from university, they died because of this. And somebody comes and want to teach you how to feel and how to analyze. Like, it's your country, man. What are you talking about?
These people are fucking clowns. Their opinions are not even their own opinions. They know nothing about Syria. So the information that they are getting is from Western media sources or sources that are against the Syrian government, the Syrian people. And you have those, right? We have Arabic news sources that are also complicit in this, as we know. And that's awful what happened to your brother. Actually, I wanted to ask you about that story. I mean, how did this happen, that they kidnapped him? Because Aleppo, for people who don't know, Aleppo is really, I think, one of the cities that got damaged the most in the war as well. I mean, it's horrific.
Richard, in between 2011 and 2012, the so-called Free Syrian Army, they had a strategy of kidnapping civilians and ask for ransom. And they have made big fortunes from that. And they were focusing on the Christians and the Armenians. For example, on a highway, when the buses are traveling, let's say from Aleppo to Damascus, and all of a sudden they come in front of a bus, they come in and they ask for the IDs, and they choose the Christians and the Armenians. And many of them are lost now. We don't know what happened to them. And then they kidnap you, and they call your parents asking for a ransom. My brother was kidnapped by them. While he was driving a car, he stopped on a red light, and somebody just came and sit next to him on the red light, and he put a gun on his belly, telling him to drive. And he took him 60 kilometers north of Aleppo in one of the towns in Haretan. And they called my father and they told him, look, you're gonna pay $20,000 now, or we will send the decapitated head of your son in a bag in front of your door. And my father is a very strong man, and he told them, look, Habibi, because of the war, we're not even able to work. So you want $20,000? Okay, I have $2,000 now at home. If you want it, I can give it to you. If you don't want it, keep my son with you. Let him eat and drink at yours. It's less expenses for me because I already have 5 sons, but he doesn't have 5 sons. He just have 2 sons, but he was just negotiating with them. He doesn't want to show them that he's weak and afraid in front of this terrorist. So after a few hours, they called again, and a lot of people intervened. We talked to the government. The government said, we cannot help you because if we send any military to this area, they will know that we're going to liberate your son, and they're going to just kill him. They're going to slaughter him. So better that you deal with this issue directly with the terrorists. And my father, for hours, he was talking to them on the phone, and they agreed on a $12,000 this is in mid-2012. And he took the money and he went alone to their headquarters in 60 kilometers north of Aleppo. And he sat with someone called Abu Arab, and he negotiated with him too. And he paid the money and brought my brother back from them, from this area. So this is not something like happened only to us. Thousands and thousands of people's sons and daughters were kidnapped by the Free Syrian Army in exchange for ransom. So they were more of a gang than any sort of a military brigade. And the
Yeah.
guy who was organizing these kidnaps, his name was Haji Maria, and he was died, I think, in 2014 or 2015, no, 2014, in Aleppo. And the Wall Street Journal like made him like a saint, like they made a reportage about him as if this guy was some sort of a Che Guevara. And while all the Aleppis know, what this guy did to their sons and daughters, and how many missiles were dropped on Aleppo by his gang called Jaish. I don't even remember their names. Like every day they spawn one new name.
That's why I call them 50 flavors of jihad. They just, they have so many I can't even keep up. But man, I'm alhamdulillah, your brother's okay. And I mean, this is horrific. It really shows you how disrespectful people are. They can listen to stories like this, and then they're so fucking brainwashed that all they can respond with is Assadist. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, do you know what kind of fear that must put into someone's heart that someone is threatening to chop off your brother's head and threaten you with the ransom? Like, they have no clue. They have zero idea, and they're so brainwashed that all they know is how to repeat like parrots. They just repeat whatever they've heard on MSNBC or some shit on Vice. I mean, it's disgusting. And speaking of rehabilitation, what did you think of this gem over here that they've been trying to rehabilitate? So, yeah,
Let me guess.
You already know, man. Here he is, El Jolani.
Look at him, man. He looks a very cute Islamist here. Look at him.
There was a meme that you posted, like someone put makeup on his face, like his transformation, that was just hilarious, honestly. So, I mean, I've already actually talked about this, but if you want to elaborate on him, please, by all means, go ahead, because I think you did a great job.
After 10 years through the so-called democratic revolution in Syria, this guy is not only the strongest figure among the so-called Syrian opposition, but also the most popular one. If there would be any, let's say, internationally observed neutral elections in Syria, this guy would be the only one who competes the Syrian government. He's the guy who has the strongest army against the Syrian government. And they are no less than 60,000 jihadis and from all around the world. But the Americans, especially after the intervention of Russia in September, October 2015, in order to avoid, let's say, Russian airstrikes against al-Nusra, which is an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, because they know this is the strongest army against Assad, they asked al-Nusra to change its name. And it happened in early 2016, and al-Nusra started to call itself Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, and we have nothing to do with Al-Qaeda, and we are just moderate rebels here. Whereas underground, they're just imposing strict Sharia codes, and not even Sharia, it's like a Wahhabi style, and they are lynching people who don't go to prayers. They are killing people if you don't fast, if you smoke a shisha, if a woman goes outside without a headscarf. They accuse women of adultery, and they just shoot her in the head in public squares, just like what ISIS did and still does in Syria. But as the former Special Envoy of the United States to Syria, James Jeffrey, said only recently, Al-Qaeda is an asset for the United States strategy in Syria. Yep. And this is not a conspiracy theory. Al-Qaeda was always an asset for the United States, starting from Afghanistan, passing through Libya in 2011, and now in Syria. Is it a coincidence that every time the United States wants to fight in Middle East or North Africa, and even in Chechnya against any of its enemies, and even in Xinjiang, the only party that is fighting against these governments that the America dislikes is Al-Qaeda? It's like, and all of these groups were indoctrinated. And the Mohammed bin Salman MBS, I think 1.5 years ago, he said it in an interview that he will no longer export Wahhabism as it was, as the Saudi Arabia was tasked by the United States to export Wahhabism around the world, because Wahhabism is a very radical school in Islam that they base their acts on a hadith that is not even sometimes proved that is true hadith. And a hadith, for those who don't know, when the Prophet Muhammad died, some of his followers or close friends, they come and say, oh, we were walking in the garden with the Prophet and he said we need to exterminate these people or that. You don't know if the Prophet said that, but they wrote it in documents and they started to research it if it's true or not. And these ISIS guys, they just choose this ahadith, which is not even proven that are accurate, and they use it in this warfare.
Unfortunately, that's what every extremist in every religion does. They choose what they like and then ignore all the basic stuff like don't kill, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
In Islam, in the Quran, there are many verses that call for tolerance and peace with all religions, and they even
and
tell
this
you
is directly from the Prophet.
Yes, directly from the Prophet. But so in my theory is, and if we want to compare Christianity and Islam, the Christianity started when Jesus died, because his followers wrote the Bible and they made a religion. Jesus never wanted to make a religion as the traditional way of religion, but his students did. But in my opinion, Islam died when the Prophet died. So it's just the opposite of Christianity, because after him,
conflict. Yeah.
After him, they fought over authority and they politicized Islam. And they started to use the religion in order to conquer or expand, etc., etc. So there should be a big reform by the Islamic scholars to return back into a spiritual, just the spirituality of the religion instead of a political tool.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all throughout history. I mean, even the Crusaders, you know, they were saying like, "Oh, we're going to liberate the Holy Land," and then they would come to, you know, where we are from, the Levant, the Middle East, and they would kill Christians. Like they massacred everyone in Jerusalem, the Muslims, the Jews, and the Christians, and they came in the name of Christianity. And so, you know, I see here, especially the United States, as you said, they're using Saudi Arabia to export Wahhabism, and it's really like they're dirtying the name of the religion at the same time. You know, it's really horrific. And you know, one thing I wanted to ask you, actually, because we're on this topic, Tulsi Gabbard, former congresswoman, she tweeted about the Armenian Genocide, and you know, I'll just read the tweet. I'll pull it up over here. I wanted to ask you your opinion on this. She says, 1.5 million Armenians were killed over 100 years ago by the Islamist Ottoman Empire. It is shameful it has taken so long for formal recognition of this genocide to occur, never done previously for fear of angering Turkey. My aloha is with Armenians everywhere as we remember them today. So my question is about Islamists, because there are lots of people in the comments. I didn't even notice it at first, actually. I was just glad that she recognized the genocide, because a lot of people don't. I wanted to ask you, like, is the use of that term correct? Because you have people saying that, oh, the Young Turks, they were not, you know, they were secular, or I don't know. Like I'm curious what you think.
It is accurate and not accurate at the same time, because the genocide didn't start in 1915. It started in late 1880s. So because of the persecution of the Armenians under the Ottoman Empire, which was an Islamic caliphate, so it was an Islamic state, the Armenians formed a group called the Armenian Revolutionary Federation, which is the Tashnak, and which still exists in Syria and in Lebanon. And they started from Tbilisi, from Georgia, and they carried guns and they started to defend themselves against the Ottoman Empire. And there were tens of thousands of Armenians perished by the Ottoman Empire between 1880s till 1915. So the genocide didn't start in 1915. But when the Young Turks came into power, they accelerated the ethnic cleansing against the Armenians. And yes, they were secular. So the responsibility doesn't only lie on the Young Turks, but also on the Ottoman Empire, which occupied the Armenian territories for 400 years, similar to what the Ottomans did to the Arab territories. And nowadays we are still debating for example, in Syria, whether or not the Ottoman Empire era was an occupation or not, because a lot of people would say, no, it was a caliphate, therefore it wasn't an occupation. So we have to really practice social media pressure or to educate the people that in these 400 years, name me one single innovation by the Ottoman Empire. I'm waiting. Like 400 years, it were like 400 of years of hibernation of the people of this region, and Khazuk. And if those people who don't know what Khazuk means, and it's like sitting on a chair with a stick that it can kill you from your anus to your mouth. I know it's an old technique too, but the Turks were doing that to the Arabs before doing it to the Armenians. So
yeah, it's an expression even that you say, like واحد
a lot of Arabic intellectuals were hanged by the Ottomans, and a lot of them were killed, executed, because they were speaking against the Ottoman Empire or plotting some sort of a revolution against the Ottoman Empire. So it wasn't like the Ottomans were there and giving the rights for the people. No, it was a forced occupation, and they were Turkification. Yeah. So why would my grandparents speak better Turkish than Armenian? Because it was forced on them to speak in Turkish. And now if you compare the situation of the Armenians in Syria, for example, why the Armenians speak better Armenian than Arabic, although the curriculum is in Arabic in Syria? Because they have rights. And they study Armenian in their schools, and they have their own Armenian clubs, they have their own Armenian sport clubs and churches. So there's a huge difference between tolerance of that the Armenians enjoy now, for example, in Syria and Lebanon, compared to an Ottoman Empire, when it is an Islamic state. That means, one, you are a second and third level citizen, and two, you're paying more taxes to the government because you're not Muslim, and three, because of this tax system, a lot of people converted to Armenians and other Christians to Islam in order not to pay taxes to the. So of course, this was some sort of also when you convert people into other state of belief, of course, it's some sort of an ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, and it's my grandmother. So on my mother's side, because she lost a family on her father and her mother's side. So 3 out of 4 of her grandparents were orphaned, and on her mother's side, they're from Tashnag, and the thing is that, as you said, in Syria, the Armenians, they really do enjoy. They're fully assimilated while also being extremely patriotic. You know what I'm saying? Like I think my mother, she attended an Armenian primary school, for example, right? And not all her siblings did, but what's interesting is that you won't find anyone who is more proud to be Syrian than Syrian Armenians. Like they appreciate, like we appreciate. We understand that this country took us in for in the worst of times, and like we're extremely proud, and I think it's cool.
Richard, it's a two-way thing. The feelings of patriotism of the Syrian Armenians is one, as you mentioned, Armenians feel very grateful for the Syrians who embraced and protected them from the Armenian genocide. I think around 120,000 Armenians arrived in Syria after the genocide, so they were really protected by the Arabic clans, and they were embraced. So, for example, during the university days, let's say I had many Muslim friends, and one of them was like telling, "Oh, my grandmother, she's Armenian, and he comes from Deir Zor." And now you know what happened, because they were embraced in the family and protected, and they were intermarriages, and they were not forced to convert into Islam. Because in Islam, a male Muslim can marry a female Christian, and she stays on her own belief. So this was respected, and they stayed Armenian and they stayed Christian. So Syrians are generally very tolerant when it comes to religion. And
this is what. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
This was a little bit, of course, I'm not generalizing at all. Some people changed after 2011 because of the huge indoctrination and the money and the war that happened in Syria. And this is now a political issue, no more. It's not religious, because those who are with Assad or against Assad are from different religions and sects. So there are Muslims with Assad and Muslims against Assad. But those who are against Assad, a lot of them tell me, for example, why you're talking about the Syrian issue? This is not your country. Go back to Armenia. You're only a refugee here. So this racist rhetoric from them comes, and the background is ideological and political. It's not religious, because the vast majority of the Muslims in Syria, they support Assad. And this is not some sort of
which means the majority of the people in Syria, basically.
Of course, because the Aleppis, the people in Aleppo and in Damascus, they stayed with the Syrian government now for 10 years. And these people consist of 9 million Sunni Muslims in Syria. So these so-called experts on Syria, pundits and Orientalist bullshitters, come and tell you, oh, this Alewi dictatorship is ruling over 70% of the Sunnis. Fuck yourself, man. The biggest part of the Syrian cabinet is Sunni Muslims. The wife of the president is Sunni Muslims. Most generals in the Syrian army are Sunni Muslims. Most martyrs of the Syrian army are Sunni Muslims. What are you talking about? Someone like this Charles Lobster, I call him Charles Lobster. He's for in the last 10 years, he's teaching us which group is a moderate rebel and which not, and he understood Syria so wrong.
This piece of shit.
Yeah, this guy thinks that he visited Syria in 2006 for 5 days. He thinks that he turned into some sort of an expert on Syria. This guy promoted for Jabha Shamiyeh and for Nuruddin Zinki as moderate rebels, and these guys are head choppers. They were like chopping the head of kids, 12-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids in the middle of the streets. This guy, there is more blood on his hands than any other so-called pundit in Syria. And because
let me play a clip from him, just 1 second, to illustrate your point.
Portrayed Al-Qaeda as a popular movement with broad support in Syria.
Al-Qaeda has really got it right, I hate to say.
He then went on to claim Al-Qaeda is more moderate than ISIS.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's... I have nothing more to add.
He made a list of 60,000 moderate rebels in Syria. And he pushed the US administration to give them weapons. Like this is no more someone who is working in academia or analysis. He's a lobbyist that his words and talks can lead to the murder and slaughtering of people in other regions. And of course, if you engage with him in any discussion, he just like blocks you. You know, he blocked me many years ago.
No, he's colonialist scum as far as I'm concerned. Like, this guy is no different than the British or the French, like 100 years ago, trying to dictate what happens in the country. You know, and I would say even more vile because of the people that he's been trying to push. Literally Al-Qaeda. Like, these people have zero fucking shame.
But you know, Richard, I'm gonna say something. Some people think this is emotional, and it's not. These guys have millions of dollars of funding. It's not him alone, because they have centers and these think tanks. They have funding from governments for hundreds of millions. And this is no joke, because they create a narrative in the academia, in university students, because people read this stuff. And if we compare their work to our work, we're sitting home behind this shitty camera, and we are telling the people what's going on in Syria, people believe us more than they believe them, despite the millions that these guys have spent on their so-called pundits to create this so-called expert. Because the people know and they understand that if you're respecting their brain and you're respecting, like you're trying to be objective and you're coming from a place that you want to restore peace and stability in your own country, the people believe you more than someone who's sitting in the United States and telling, we need to arm this, we need to arm that, and we need to send more jihadists into Syria.
They're nuts, man. It's like, I think this is a great analogy. It's like as if someone is, arming the KKK with weapons and telling them to overthrow the government and giving money to like the Proud Boys, or I don't know, whatever all these right-wing militias are. That's exactly what's happening, and even worse, because these people are international terrorists. They're not only coming from abroad into Syria, they're also exporting that, as we've seen, even to the United States. Like it's horrendous. And like you said, people actually have an appetite, thank God, for real talk and not this fucking NATO propaganda over here. But they get angry, right? There are people saying that I'm not Syrian and we've never heard him speak Arabic. What? Man, these people are altar rockers. They have they're just literally making the wildest shit up because they have nothing fuck all to say, and that proves that they are incapable of engaging in correct discussion in real talk, and all they know is the propaganda that they've heard on the television. And it's so important for you and the good work you do at Syrian analysis to keep this up, because otherwise, what's left? The mainstream media? I mean, look at what they do. And I wanted to ask you actually, you've also been attacked before for the work that you've done, right? Even violently. Can you like explain to people and tell us more about that if you want? Of course, I understand if you don't want to. It's totally fine. I was just curious because I found it so appalling. So.
Actually, Richard, since I created Syrian analysis, it grew fast because I had the support from a few of my videos were posted by WikiLeaks. So all of a sudden, I had tens of thousands of people watching you. I have around now 7.6 million views from all around the world, mostly coming from the United States, and it's an eye-opening for the mainstream media journals. So of course they will try to discredit you. They try to link you with people like this Charles Lister. He said, like, I'm affiliated with Alexander Dugin in Russia. He's a Russian philosopher. He calls me fake, like the fake version of Alexander Dugin. And the German media also was curious, who am I? And I'm living in Berlin and I'm doing YouTube work. And I'm talking something that goes 180% against the narrative of the German mainstream media too. So
look how they immediately try to attack who you are as a person, not what you're saying. With Charles Lister, I don't give a fuck where he was born or where he grew up. I'm concentrating on what he's saying. And they can't do that, of course.
They call me all sorts of things, like I'm an Assadist, I'm the right hand of Assad in Europe, that I'm pushing for his strategy in Europe, and that I'm connecting the right-wing groups in Europe with Syria. And when you watch these reportages, it's like, are they talking about me? Who's this person that they're talking about? Like if I have. They make up. And mukhabarat, that I'm working with the Syrian intelligence agent. So if I'm a Syrian intelligence, do you think that the German intelligence agency haven't figured out yet? It's like, what the fuck you're talking about, guys?
Exactly. It's like they're so dumb. What is that, man?
I told the German journalist many times, guys, you hate me, I understand, but when you want to, like in your wordings, be careful, because there are a lot of Syrians in Germany, and I'm saying it unfortunately, who are anti-Assad, and these guys will hate me with passion. And we know someone who is anti-Assad, there is a high probability that he's an Islamist, and they could be just lone wolf or maybe organized. They could want to take revenge, because for them, I'm with the brutal dictator who is killing their own people. So after these reportages that the German media did, what happened. The second day, a lot of media outlets like Orient TV, the shittiest TV channel in the world, Al Jazeera Arabic, Al Jazeera included me in a documentary called The Assassins of Assad in Europe. So I have a 5 minutes of they in the entire documentary, 5 minutes they're talking about me, and they're saying that the guy comes in Berlin every few months and he gives me a paper document from Assad, and Assad is telling me his strategy for me. Like they make up shitty stuff
by
about
paper
me
too. Why not
Yes.
by pigeon?
No, they even say that this guy, he doesn't deliver the instructions from Assad verbally because my mobile couldn't be watched. So he's giving me a paper and I read it and I know what Assad wants to happen in Germany. So when you do such stuff and when you're working in the street, and you know how many million people watch Al Jazeera, right? And this Orient TV, shitty TV. I walk in the street, Richard, I can guarantee you, every fucking day, if I go to a train station or something, because you know I'm very rich and I have many cars here because Putin and Assad are sending me a lot of money, but I don't use them. I just take the public transportation. If one of these motherfuckers see me, the least thing is like, I'm gonna treat your mother, treat your sister, and they follow me. They want to talk. They want to say bullshit to me. And on the 6th of I was attacked a few times in the street. So the police told me not to go into certain areas where these motherfuckers are. But for the first time, I was walking in a safe area. Someone comes and tells me, aren't you Assad's guy? I was like, huh? And he's talking to me in Arabic, you know? So I just, also from his accent, I know he's Syrian. And all of a sudden, he took something from his like a small bag from here, and he starts to run after me. And I have no choice but to run. And I'm running for 10 minutes asking for help. Nobody is coming. It's like, who would like to intervene in such a fight, you know? And I was 99% sure it was a knife, okay? But he escaped later because he couldn't reach me. And I have no evidence that he was carrying a gun in his hand except my eyes. The only evidence that you should present in front of a court is either you have a picture of him carrying this gun, or you were stabbed by him. How can I prove that he was carrying a gun? So he went, like, he escaped the punishment because I couldn't prove that he was carrying a gun and he was running after me. And Richard, it's still worse than that. The German media, a website called T-Online, they covered up this. They wrote an article about me, and they said that I'm making up stories that I was attacked by a knife. And they said he was just running after me because he wanted to ask me why I'm supporting Assad. So imagine someone, this is happening in fucking German mainstream media. They write an article about you, telling the people with a straight face that someone with a decapitated left hand, which is like, I'm suspecting that this guy was a terrorist and he lost his hand in Syria. He's running after me for 10 minutes just to ask me why I support Assad. So who is disrespecting the brain of the people? It's me or the media? If you read this article, who do you want to believe?
This is despicable, man. They're trying to whitewash an attempted murder into, you know, some kind of petty confrontation. He just wanted to talk to you. What the fuck?
Richard, they made him the victim.
This is insane. Just like Malcolm X said. What did Malcolm X say? He said, if you listen to the press, they'll have you hating the victims and thinking the oppressors are. I'm butchering the quote. Excuse me, but everyone knows it. But
I'm gonna mention this information for the first time. I never mentioned this before. So this guy who attacked me, they made him a victim. The media made him a victim, and there is a political party in Germany. They adopted this guy. Somebody recognized him because I published his photo on Twitter.
Right, that's how I knew about it.
Yeah, so somebody knew the guy, and they went to him and they gave him money. This guy is on a job center, okay? So he takes money from the government. He doesn't work. So they pay the money to a very good lawyer to protect him. And not only that, he sued me for publishing his photo on Twitter. Yes, I know it's illegal. I knew it later. I didn't know when I published it that it was illegal to publish a photo.
Murder? That's not illegal.
Yeah. So he asked for 10,000 euros compensation. His lawyer is saying that he's now traumatized and he's living in fear, and I destroyed his future because I published this photo on Twitter.
He is traumatized.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, what do you expect, man? These people are scum. If these are the same kind of people who will execute Syrians in Syria, now they want to kill you in Germany, and then they want us to believe that these people are pro-democracy, right? Yeah. They just stab people that would disagree with them. Yeah, very pro-democracy. Wow, I'm so excited to see Syria under them, right?
This guy could be okay. He's an asshole, but the bigger assholes are those political parties in Germany who wanted to protect this guy, and also the lawyer who accepted. And the lawyer, I'm saying this like with full pain in my chest, she comes from an Arabic heritage, and I checked her background. She should be in our side if you check the history of her family, but she protected someone who is obviously an Islamist. Like, Richard, I'm a football player, or I was, but still I'm very fast. And this guy, if you see his body, this guy, he was either like an athlete, which is very, very like rare in Syria, or he was a militant. The guy was running like a rocket behind me, and the way he was attacking me, obviously that's not the first time that he attacks. We know this stuff in Syria. When you see the forehead of someone, you say this guy is a terrorist or not. But if you tell someone here in Germany that this guy is full of hatred, it's obvious from his eyes. They say, how do you know this guy is a radical? Prove it. It's like, guys, this is
dumb. They want us to like, they want us to question our own sanity and tell us how to understand our own fucking people and culture, like our own society. This is absurd. This is so fucking absurd. And you know what this is, man? Fundamentally speaking, this comes from a colonialist mentality. It's that they want to shape the narrative. They will decide, they will dictate, rather is the right verb. They will dictate the outcome, who is ruling. They will dictate who are the victims, who are the recorded oppressors. This is all rooted in colonialism. Truly, it's about imposing on others. And then they have the fucking nerve to talk about authoritarianism and fighting for democracy while they shelter people like that. I mean, this is horrendous, honestly. And
people think that imperialism is just it has only a military aspect. No way, it has an intellectual aspect too. When someone sitting in London or in Berlin and thinks that he or she knows better how you should govern yourself, or how Syria should be ruled, and how the people should live there, that's cultural imperialism. Who the fuck you think you are to lecture? Democracy, guys. Democracy, guys, is a process, and it's a human development. And Syrians and other people, they are developing their own political system based on their experience and their history. You cannot export your version.
Look at where we are, you and me, right? They were committing genocide against the Jews here, not even 67 years ago. That just happened, and it took Europe fucking millennia till they came up with, the EU. Okay, the EU has its own faults, but I mean of the fact that you can walk from one end of the continent to the other, and that they have, all these countries finally not bombing the shit out of each other. It took them thousands of years, and now, and by the way, they got to that point by colonizing us and others, right? Stealing our resources. But yeah, like we are on our own path. That's what I wanted to say, and we are going to do it in our own time, not when some fucking British or Americans say so.
It's not a piece of cake you put it in the oven and bring it to someone and say yalla, eat it. No, it's a complete, like, it's accumulation of experiences, and the people in the Middle East, because of a lot of turmoils that happened, occupations, colonization, they are behind it. They are behind in terms of politics, but that doesn't mean that they are not trying to create their own version. But every time the people start to develop and have some decent life, like we had in Syria, a very good GDP and security, and we were developing ourselves in a way, like the universities that were created in the past, let's say before the war, 10 years before the war, during the era of Bashar al-Assad. It was amazing. There were people talking about how Syria is going to compete with regional universities, and how students from different Middle Eastern countries will come to Syria to study. And that happened a lot. People from Sudan, from Egypt, from Saudi Arabia, from all the places, they were coming to study in Syria.
Yeah, I met people from Exeter, from the UK, in the fucking gym. They're studying Arabic in Damascus. Like you said, they're coming from everywhere.
Yeah, so it was a very good place to live. It's a cheap place, and we were also advancing in all aspects in our lives. So every time you try to advance, they will try to take you back. And if they're not coming after you with their military forces, they will come after you through their proxies in the region. And this is happening since 1920s. When the Brits started to conquer the area, and they started to create, they created the Muslim Brotherhood in the 20s, because they wanted to first hit the left-wing socialist groups. They wanted to hit the nationalist groups. They wanted to hit any group that calls for independence. So they wanted to keep the area busy with an internal conflict by creating a radical group like the Muslim Brotherhood in the area. And then this group expanded in the entire region. And now in 2011, who started the Syrian revolution? Of course, between brackets. Who started it? It's the Muslim Brotherhood. People don't dare to say this. They started this revolution. And the guy who's behind the Facebook page of the Syrian revolution, which they mobilized people every Friday from the mosques, was a Muslim Brotherhood. And he is living here in Sweden. So don't come and tell me that this was some sort of a popular revolution against a dictatorship. No. People they wanted more reforms in Syria, but they didn't want to destroy the entire system and the entire achievements that we did in the past, during the era at least of Bashar al-Assad, in order to have more political freedoms. I'm sorry, how many people would be participating in the parliament or in political positions, comparing to education, free healthcare, and like supported gasoline prices, and every aspect of your life is like cheap. If you make $1,000 in Syria before the war, you could live with 4 members of your family in like a 5-star life. I'm talking about 4 people, which was like my father's. Which was like my father's monthly, let's say, not income, but the profits that he used to make. 50,000 is more than enough. I used to take like $80 per month for my pocket money, and it was more than fucking enough. I used to go to party, I used to drive a car and everything. And when you're sick, it's very cheap in Syria, and the government supports all sorts of medication, and the cancer treatment is almost free. And these beautiful democratic rebels, the first thing they did, they detonated the biggest cancer treatment hospital in the Middle East with Allahu Akbar shouts. And if you read till today the BBC, what they wrote about this incident, and it was like, oh, this was some sort of a brigade for the Syrian army, and the rebels. They still call them, they were calling them rebels, although the Nusra, which is Al-Qaeda, they committed this attack back then.
When did this happen exactly? I'm trying to find the article.
The bombing of, it was in 2015. The Kindi Hospital, just write Kindi Hospital, bombing of Kindi Hospital. In 2014 or 15, I have to remember again. I think it was in 14, right? And they were British jihadists. See, Syria rebels take back strategy. Take back.
Just blow up a fucking hospital.
They are shameless, man. They have no shame, really. Look at this. It's a full of C4, and they're going to bomb the hospital, and then it's like a stronghold. Yeah.
This is exactly the video I was thinking about, but I didn't know the name. I wasn't sure which incident. Yeah, look, now it goes off.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
Man, these people, they do this in God's name. They don't know anything about God. They have nothing to do with God. This is despicable, and they have the nerve then to come and talk about Russia and Syria bombing hospitals. What the fuck is that?
Stronghold. It's a stronghold. They used to, for example, when they invaded in 2014 northern Latakia, the leaders of the invasion
lots of
were
Armenians there.
Yes, but the leaders or the commanders of the invasion were from Chechnya, and still they were calling them rebels back then. And these guys committed acts of ethnic cleansing against the Alevites in northern Latakia, and they seriously killed thousands of people just based on because of their religion. So when you read the articles written back then, it's the rebels are attacking the strongholds of the Assad regime. What the fuck is that? What message are you sending to your people? If you are a Westerner and you know nothing about Syria and you're just reading that article, in your subconscious you will think that it's the Assad and his family living there. You know, it's the stronghold of the Assad regime.
Yeah, they're on the first floor, and there's a penthouse also. No, seriously, like, this is the problem that most Westerners, and not just Westerners, everyone, the whole world, they don't know what is happening in Syria, and you can't blame them because there's such an effort by the media to make sure that they don't know what is happening there. It's not even a bit. It's like dude, I just want to fucking break this table. Like, I'm so angry. How many times do we have to go through this? Like, because I know you know this, the audience knows this. Thank God some people are actually listening, but it angers me because there's so much evidence. It's overwhelming. There's a plethora. You look at the ARC and Incostrat and all the shit that the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office did. The White Helmets being part of that as well. You know, it's so much. Like, yes, this is the most propagandized conflict in modern history, but at the same time, there's so much fucking evidence of it that you could not possibly allow yourself to fall for it.
Richard, I'm gonna say something. Some people may not like it. Okay, look, I also blame the Western people because in the 21st century, you are one click away from having a different perspective. Okay, maybe you're lazy. You don't want to follow the news. If you are just following the mainstream media and not behaving or acting based on the mainstream media, okay, you're just watching and doing nothing, okay, that's fine. But if you're watching mainstream media and you're going online and telling that we need to remove your president and all this stuff, go fuck yourself. If you are one of these people, you are just an imperialist scum that you know nothing what's going on in the Middle East, and you're just brainwashed person.
They love talking about, oh, look what the Syrian army is doing to its own people. Motherfucker, we are its own people, but you don't want to listen to us. Apparently, you only want to listen to fucking BBC and NBC propaganda. Yeah, lovely how they always care about Assad and his own people, but when his own fucking people say something that goes that runs counter to the mainstream media, all of a sudden they want nothing to do with you. They don't want to listen to you.
Who is the Syrian army?
Who's fucking imperialist scum?
Who is the Syrian army? Who's the Syrian army? It's my friends, your friends, our relatives, our schoolmates, our university colleagues. These are the Syrians. So how, if you are a Syrian and you're serving in the army, and let's suppose that your commander told you to kill protesters, and these are your family and your friends, would you kill them? Of course not. It's a fucking war since day one. people don't understand that at the first week of the war, there were many ambushes against the Syrian army posts. They burned governmental buildings. They sniped the security. The security was with a stick and these shields that they were walking, and they're receiving bullets, sniper bullets on their necks.
Dude, if you look at the Syrian riot police and compare them to the American riot police, the guy, like, he's dressed, the Syrian guy is dressed in a trash bag, basically, compared to like these Americans with their fucking tear gas and their tasers and pepper spray, and they have these boucliers, these giant ass shields, and they have fucking combat helmets and night vision and coming in with armored trucks. What the fuck? You have the nerve to come here and talk to me about state violence, you motherfuckers? Unbelievable.
Richard, in 2011, if you, let's suppose something, okay?
Like, I wish there were evidence. I can see evidence. There's so much every single day someone being killed in the United States. I can go and show you the video in fucking HD. Can you do the same in Syria?
No, they can't. They can't, especially in 2011. For example, I documented a lot of videos, and I'm asking myself this question because there is no evidence for it, but we have to keep this on the table. Okay, Syrian security forces are in front of a protest, and they started to receive bullets. Okay, and these bullets, the security starts to run away. It's like it's the other way around in Europe. In Europe, the police runs on the protesters. Here, the police is running away from the and they are receiving, while they're running, they're receiving bullets on their necks. Which rebel in 2011 is able to shoot a few security guys running very fast on their necks? This guy should be either very well trained before the war, or there's a third party, like happened in Maidan in Ukraine, because it's very easy to have a third party shooting on both sides and create a mayhem and turn both sides on each other.
Yeah,
people say, it's a conspiracy.
We know for a fact that they do false flags. This is a scientific, quantifiable fucking fact. The Douma gas attack was a false flag. This is proven not by me. This is proven by the OPCW scientists, the motherfucking G's, the people you send to see what happened. They are saying that. They are the engineers. They are the forensics experts. They are saying that. That's science, literally fucking science, that there was no gas attack and the shit was placed there manually. They looked at the ballistics, they analyzed that. So we know for a fact they have done false flags in this war on Syria, and way bigger ones. Yeah, chemical gas attack. This is, the red line, like Obama said. So what's shooting a few cops or riot police or security forces compared to a chemical gas attack? If they will lie about a chemical gas attack, they will lie about fucking anything. And the thing is that, again, the thing is, how do we know what the shit that they're saying about the Syrian government, like, how much of it is true? I can't tell. How am I supposed to report on it objectively when 24/7 they're just pumping out lies? How can I do that? It's impossible.
Richard,
because there are legitimate criticisms. There are legitimate criticisms, but it's nowhere near what they are saying in the media. This is bullshit. This is absurd.
Richard, a few things about the Douma incident. The claims made when the alleged attack happened, it's very cartoonish. You don't even need an OPCW scientist to tell you that this was a stage. How can a fucking gas cylinder come from the rooftop of the building and sleep peacefully on your bed without wrecking your bed? How is that even physically possible? You don't need to be a genius to understand that this cylinder, this cylinder was placed there. And the second question is, Richard, there were a lot of civilians dead in this alleged attack. How did these people die, and who killed them? They were kids and women dead. Who killed these people?
Exactly. What about the actual victims? We don't know what happened to them. We still don't know.
But when we saw the videos and they were obviously there was something. And Richard, Syria, we have these gas jars that we cook. If you put a few people in a so if you put a few people in a closed room, exactly. If you put a few people in a closed room and open that gas only for 5 minutes, you could kill them. So We really need a real investigation now. We need someone to tell us how these people died. Do you guys think that we could just sacrifice 80 to 90 civilians just because you're telling us like, oh, maybe this, maybe that? No, we want to know what happened in Douma, who killed these people. We know it was staged. We know who has an influence in Douma, Jaish al-Islam and the White Helmets. We know that they were involved in this. How did these people die? We need to know, because if they kill them with a gas jar, they're able to kill now anyone in Idlib again with these gas jars and say Assad is using chemical weapons there, because sooner or later the war for Idlib will start and this area will be liberated. And if this weapon was used once, it could be used twice and 3 times and 4 times. And how can you stop this terrorist from using this weapon when you are able to buy the administration of the OPCW and you suppress your own report that is done by the investigators of your own fact-finding mission investigators, and then say bullshit just with a straight face? How can I trust OPCW
That's
again?
The thing, like, if there are actually legitimate things that were done by the government, we can't fucking know now because the organization is compromised. So we can't tell what's real from what's fake. We can't tell them apart. And in 2013, they dismantled the program, right? That was carried out by the OPCW, by Russia, by the United States. What about everything after that? Because, you know, again, it's like, did you do your jobs and actually dismantle it, or did you not? You know, make up your minds. And again, I mean, just like you said, we didn't need the OPCW to know it's bullshit. Also, look on the map, you can just see that they'd already finished the battle. Like they'd done 2 months Operation Damascus Steel. They've taken back all of Ghouta. Like there's just Douma left. Who the hell uses chemical weapons when they've won a battle? Like I've never heard of that. And not to mention, we have the leaks. We actually have the scientific evidence that it's bullshit. But, you know, again, like I said, it's actually stupid, because if there are actually legitimate critiques and there are legitimate issues and crimes, we won't know about them because they've been mixed in with the rest of the lies from the mainstream media. So now it's like, if you've done an injustice to basically everyone.
Richard, in Khan Sheikhun incident, the alleged chemical attack that happened in Khan Sheikhun, if you see how they collected the samples with the sandals, wearing a fucking sandal and collecting the sarin gas samples. I mean, these are very comical. It's no more a professional work. And if you talk about it, people have become very simplistic in their arguments. Just say Assadist or conspiracy theorist and don't argue. I'm really sorry, but if you're talking about the sarin gas and somebody is walking with a sandal and taking selfies with the sarin gas, he should be dead already. Or
that CNN woman sniffing the backpack. Why would you sniff a chemical weapon? The fact that she sniffed it and nothing happened to her proves that there was nothing. Like, thank you for that. She actually inadvertently did some of the best reporting in history. You know, she sniffed a fucking backpack and nothing happened. That proves there was no chemical.
If Abu Adayman and Hala Gorani, both CNN prostitutes, are maybe, if one day watch this video, I would say shame on you, because you are Syrians, and what you did to your own countries were it's unimaginable. You stood on the wrong side in history, and on the side of people who won't hesitate to decapitate you, Hala Gorani, and you, Abu Adayman. And you know well that you came to Idlib under the protection of the Turkish intelligence. If they leave you alone in Idlib with Al-Qaeda fanboys, they will rape you, then they will accuse you of adultery, and they will stone you to death. This is your destiny, and you're supporting these guys in Syria. Shame on you.
Shame on them. And this is the thing that, you know, if there's one takeaway that people need to understand, and this is really, this is how it is, man. Right now, you have a choice. Do you want, you know, a secular, stable government under Bashar al-Assad, or do you want Al-Qaeda to come and chop everyone who they disagree with, everyone who, you know, they have religious beef with, political beef with? They're going to chop their fucking heads off. Like, this is not even a choice. Any sane, normal human being understands that's not even a question. And that's what we're faced with. And the fact that the mainstream media are still trying to pump this chemical weapons bullshit out again, you know, they're trying to cover that Idlib is just is like a fucking cesspit of terrorism. They got 20,000, who knows how. Again, who can keep track of how many groups they got? the Free Syrian Army, the Syrian National Army. These are not the Syrian Army; they're just Turkish groups. They got Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. They got Jaysh al-Islam, which came from Ghouta and Jobar, and they got Faylaq al-Rahman. Man, I really gotta laugh at how many names, how creative they are.
You have the Islamic Turkestan Party, which is around 5,000 Uyghur terrorists in Idlib and 15,000 of their families. What can we do with these Uyghurs now? If you kill one of them now, they will make a case of a persecution against the Muslim communities. It's like they came 12,000 kilometers from Xinjiang to Idlib, and then it's like
it's insane.
It's not our problem. It's not our problem. We need to get rid of them. Sorry, somebody takes them. If you like them, take them to your countries. Give them refugee status. I don't know, but having 20,000 Uyghurs in Syria and thousands of Chechens and thousands of Saudis, Egyptians, I don't know which countries are they coming, and
these are the Syrian rebels. These are the Syrian rebels. They're not Syrian. They're just coming from all over the world, right? It's jihadi tourism. And
by the way, Richard, this picture that you're showing, this is from Minnek military airport. And in 2012 and 2013, when they attacked the Minnek military airport, the Free Syrian Army, they fought shoulder to shoulder with these terrorists. These are ISIS fighters, and the leader of the so-called Free Syrian Army, Abdel Jabbar al-Aqedi, back then, he has a famous video with the ISIS fighters, and he's calling them our brothers in jihad. They were fighting together, shoulder to shoulder. This so-called Free Syrian Army that Obama armed and trained and sent them all this weaponry, and then when the Free Syrian Army was in conflict with ISIS, only when al-Nusra and ISIS were splitted, and the Free Syrian Army chose to be on the side of Al-Qaeda, and ISIS was remained alone. So there was an internal political conflict between Al-Qaeda and Al-Qaeda. And the Free Syrian Army chose to be with al-Nusra against ISIS. It's not like these guys are enemies. They were fighting together all these years. And I met Abdel Jabbar al-Aqedi in 2015. And I asked him, so why did you fight with ISIS? And he lied in front of all the people. And these people were very, let's say, politically important people. And we didn't want to fight with ISIS, but we didn't have a choice, because ISIS, if we didn't fight with them, they would have killed us. but you guys were you gun and the ISIS gun was direct. Yes, your guns were directed on the same side. You were fighting together. And don't come and tell me after wearing some beautiful suit and wearing nice watches, because you're enjoying the privilege of having thousands and thousands of dollars per month by your masters, and come and tell to your Europeans that, oh no, we are the moderates, we want secular system, we want democracy. So I was like, okay, moderates, you guys were occupying half of Aleppo. You say it's a rebel held area, right? It's not ISIS held area. Show me which neighborhood in Aleppo there was a democratic rule, or there were democracy or secularism. Why you, the Free Syrian Army, detained your own activists, your own female activists, because they were not wearing a hijab? Like you detained your own activists who are with this so-called revolution, and they're supporting the Free Syrian Army. Yeah, and you told
you never see any women in their pictures and their rallies, right? No women.
A woman is in the kitchen, brother, cooking them.
Yeah, liberals support them. Liberals support these people wholeheartedly. They think that, they want to stay in Afghanistan as well to liberate women. Yani, akilin khara. They just their brains are completely turned to mush. By the way, did you see Jolani? Like he put out some stupid document saying that he's running for president or something. Did you see?
No,
this shit?
I didn't see.
I'm sorry I don't have it right now in front of me, but I will send it to you afterwards because it made me laugh so much, man. But just to wrap up, I wanted to play a clip at the very beginning, and I forgot because we're circling back now to the Armenian Genocide. We're talking about different genocides, all in the same place, unfortunately. I just want to play this clip. System of a Down, they're Armenian. They're Armenia's pride. So Serge Tankian, he was invited on to talk about the genocide with I think Brian Williams. Anyway, I'm just gonna play the clip very quickly and just show it to people, right?
Serge, thank you for being with us. And I was thinking this evening, I don't know an Armenian American family in all my life where the kids in that family didn't grow up steeped in these stories and told the phrase we associate with a later genocide, never forget. I am guessing that is the case with you. I'm also guessing there may have been times during your adult lifetime when the United States using the G word, probably seemed unattainable.
Absolutely, Brian. Thanks for having me on. All four of my grandparents were survivors of the Armenian Genocide, and we grew up with the stories of how their, families were massacred and how, what tough life they had and what they had to live through. So seeing President Biden recognize the genocide, being the first president to formally recognize the genocide, is huge, not just to Armenian Americans, but to Armenians around the world, Greeks and Assyrians around the world who were also massacred by the Ottoman Turks in 1915. And it's a huge thing for us. It's an amazing milestone toward receiving justice from Turkey ultimately.
Let's speak English here. Erdogan is bummed because he's lost the best friend he was ever going to have in the White House. Why is he so immovable and deeply upset at the use of the word genocide, given the fact that, as you say, it happened so long ago?
First of all, Brian, Turkey is not a free society. If you were in Turkey, you'd likely be in jail for all the exposés that you've done over the years. And their foreign policy has been horrible. And in recent, last year, they, along with Azerbaijan and imported Syrian mercenaries, they attacked the peaceful people of Nagorno-Karabakh, who have been living on their indigenous lands for 2,500 years. They've been causing havoc in Syria and Libya, in the Mediterranean, with their drilling practices. Turkish society is based on a myth. And they've been lying to their people for 106 years. And it's going to be hard for him to go back and tell them that they've been lied to for 106 years, that those lands are steeped with blood of our people, 1.5 million massacred Armenians, Greeks, and Assyrians during World War I. It's unforgivable. We hope that one day we can attain justice from Turkey the right way, but it doesn't seem to be something that's going to happen under Erdogan's dictatorial regime.
Edit. I love you, Serge Tankian, from the bottom of my heart, and I used to listen to all your music. And I know that he has done an enormous job in lobbying in the United States, especially among the celebrities, and convincing people to march behind the Armenian genocide and the Armenian cause in general. He really did a huge job. He's like, if I was so lucky that he watched this video, I just want to beg him to stop supporting Pashinyan because
that's what I wanted. Yeah.
Because really, man, our priority now is to have a strong leader to reform the army and secure the sovereignty of Armenia before we lose our entire historical territories, because I'm pretty sure that the current Turkish government and Azerbaijan will not give up unless complete annihilation of the Armenians. And I want to close this with a famous quote. Unfortunately, the past is not it's not over, because the past is still going on. So it seems that the genocidal tendencies of the the new Ottomans are reviving, and you can see it clearly on Twitter by the army of Turkish and Azerbaijani trolls talking openly about massacring Armenians, ethnically cleansing them, and occupying the current Armenia and reaching till Russia. And they have their Turkic, pan-Turkic project. And don't underestimate these threats. They feel strong, and they have a very charismatic leader in Erdogan. I would never underestimate Erdogan's tendencies and his ability to play on different geopolitical lines between the United States and Russia. Is getting benefits from both sides, and recognizing the Armenian genocide. If the Armenians do not work to translate this into like a reparation and political pressure on Turkey, we will forget this soon, because Turkey is determined to ethnically cleanse the Armenians from the region. And the proof of that is, how did they attack CashApp in 2014 in a way that like barbarians, like you see in the 2 or the 3rd century BC, how they like attack in a way that there is no military codes, there is no any laws, it's just like a jungle, and they're just craving to just capture one Armenian to drink the blood of that person. And this is no exaggeration. So the Armenians should be prepared, because the war is not over. If you think the war is over, you should be living in illusions. And if you think that the national identity of Syria is a fascist ideology or something that, as these neoliberal Armenians are not promoting online, you're mistaken, because the national identity of Armenians are a collective identity and a defense mechanism, because you're sandwiched between 2 aggressive states, and you have to defend yourself. We have to learn to survive, and we have to learn to deter. It's not about only survival. You need to have a strong army, and you have to show your enemies that you're able to inflict damages. And this could happen by simply because millions of Armenians from the diaspora visit Armenia every year. I'm ready to pay every time I go to Armenia as much as it needed to reform the Armenian army when I visit Armenia, and we should tax the diaspora. Why not?
I mean, they killed 1.5 million, 1.5 million. They killed 1.5 million Armenians, and they sent many more into the diaspora. So this is a real thing, and it speaks volumes that they won't even recognize it. Like the fact we have to kind of talk about this as if there's some kind of debate. There's no fucking debate. Like, I knew my great grandmother. Her parents were massacred in the genocide. You want to come here and tell me this didn't happen? Go fuck yourself. I don't tolerate this. This is whitewashing and genocide denial. It's despicable in any context. And as you said, like they're just trying to snatch bits of Armenia more and more and just turn it into nothing, right? They already killed 1.5 million. They got rid of more, and now they just they keep going. Like when does it end? That expression used, being sandwiched between 2 aggressive powers, just made me think of Syria being between Turkey and Israel as well. That doesn't help. Yes. But yeah, I'm really happy that you came on, Kevork, because this is not just something for my job, for our work, covering recent politics and shedding light on what's actually happening there, but also because our heritage is really, really important. So because our ancestors were massacred in this, that's our family, that's our heritage, and we should honor them always. So I'm really grateful, and Allah yarhamun, may they rest in peace. And and again, I'm so grateful for everything you're doing. And please, could you tell the audience, everyone watching, where they can find you and follow you? I'm going to pull up your Twitter on the screen, but there's more. So plug away, please.
The YouTube channel that I post the videos is Syriana Analysis. I'm usually posting 2 or 3 videos per week, mostly about Syria, Armenia, and regional conflicts. And on my Twitter is also, I'm mostly active about now the elections in Syria. I'm trying to introduce to people about the candidates in Syria, and also talking about the reconciliation between Syria and some Arabic countries that I think soon will come on the surface. Hopefully Arabs would understand that what they did to Syria is a very big mistake by siding with Turkey, and now Turkey is a very strong regional country that is not only threatening Syria but also the entire region, including the Arabic countries. So, it's better late than never, but they inflicted a very big damage to Syria and to the Syrians. They should also really feel ashamed of what they did to us in Syria, because we always used to say in Syria, "Ikhwanna al-Arab," like our brothers and sisters in the Arabic countries.
Yep, absolutely. Kevork Almassian, thank you so much for coming on, Habibi. And
Habibi, thank you very much.
You're welcome anytime, and we will definitely be doing this again. Thank you so much, Habibi.
Inshallah, Habibi, and you will be hopefully also my guest soon on Syrian analysis.
With pleasure, anytime. All right,
Habibi.
Sharafna, take care, and ma'a salama, Habibi. We'll keep in touch. Bye.
Bye.
All right, that was great. Kevork, he's really awesome. Check him out on, again, I'm going to put up his Twitter over here, at Kevork Almassian. All right, check out his work. Really insightful. He knows his stuff about many issues, as you just seen, and really pleasure to talk to. And apparently you guys have been complaining about my microphone. I don't know, man. I just don't know what the fuck is wrong with this. So we need to upgrade that, right? So definitely go support Kevork if you can on his Patreon, and if you can also donate so we can get a new microphone and sound card, that would be good. I'm sorry for the audio. It's so random. It's driving me nuts. But anyway, that was great. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll leave it there and be back very soon with more. Thank you for supporting independent media and watching. And yeah, by the way, 2 films I'd recommend if you want to watch 2 films that are pretty good about the Armenian Genocide. One of them is called Ararat. You have famous French-Armenian singer in there, Charles Aznavour, and another good one, more recent, with Oscar Isaac and Christian Bale. It's called The Promise. So Ararat and The Promise, 2 good films about the Armenian Genocide. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate it very much. Take care, ma'a salama. Bye-bye.